Shalom, my name is Yehonatan Ben Devoy. This is going to be video 3 of the why polygamy needs to be accepted in Torah-compliant communities. This right here is the Hebrew of Genesis 1:28. Be fruitful and multiply. This construction is, and he blessed them. The blue portions, basically the blue mem and also the blue yod, are basically indicative of a third person singular party blessing a plural third-person group. All right, now, illustrating the point, third person has basically rules to it in and of itself. What third person is, it means someone outside the narrative. Basically, this is someone telling a story. All right? So, ultimately, when I say outside narrative, basically it means that someone had written it. You see, Hebrew has grammar that is basically, that tells you whether or not someone wrote it, had written it, or is writing it, and so on and so forth. This is basically a story. So, could possibly be Moses who wrote it or whatever. Basically, though, it's a story, though. The story is that Elohim blessed them, referring to Adam and Eve, or Adam and Chava. And he said to them, this is your subject, Elohim, which is why I know that it was Elohim. He said to them, referring to Adam and Eve, bear fruit, multiply, and fill at the earth. So it is still third person right here because of this. So someone is telling us stories, though this isn't happening real time. This is what the writer is conveying, what Elohim said to the group, referring to Adam and Chava. Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. These blue yods, actually these blue vavs, are signs that the statement that, or the verbs that he gave, are imperative. That means that basically the statement Elohim said is he gave a specific command to this group, Adam and Chava. So he said to them, bear fruit and multiply. Bear fruit, multiply, and fill the earth. Now, ultimately, there's terms listed all throughout the Tanakh that basically illustrate, like, the fruit of the womb. This is why they're referring to the command to, what they're doing is they're referring back to the command to be fruitful and multiply. So, ultimately, what they're saying is that a baby is the fruit of the womb in and of itself. So, ultimately, the act of bearing fruit and multiplying and filling the earth are all acts of, well, having sex. Here, let me show you the proof here. And it's in Genesis chapter 30, verses 1 through 3. Okay. When Rachel saw that she bared no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I will die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and said, Am I in Elohim's stead, who hath withheld thee from the fruit of the womb? And he said, Bilhah, behold my maid Bilhah, go in unto her and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may have children upon her. So basically, in and of itself, this is what Jacob is saying. Who hath withheld thee from the fruit of the womb? Memorize that. Fruit of the womb. The fruit is, that's the noun form, which is based upon the verb form there. So he's basically he's referencing back to the specific command to be fruitful and multiply because of that verb, and actually because of that noun. He's illustrating the result of the command, of doing the command. So what does that mean? And he knows this too. He illustrates this. Am I in Elohim's stead, who hath withheld thee, referring back to Rachel, from the fruit of the womb? So he's right. He's not in Elohim's stead. What he is demonstrating, though, is that the command to be fruitful and multiply is basically done through the act of sex. But if Hashem is going to bless you with children and all of that stuff, he has to give you he's going to have to put that neshama inside of that baby and cause the baby to be brought forth. But ultimately, the act of be fruitful and multiply is ultimately done through the act of sex in and of itself. So that's the act of faith to cause that to come about. Ultimately, we're not in God's stead to do that, but that doesn't mean that we can't perform the act of faith. So ultimately, this means that everyone in Israel is bound by the command to have sex in and of itself. And here's how else I know this. First off, it comes right out and says, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill at the earth." Now, obviously, they're not going to, Adam and Chava are not going to be able to fill the earth, okay? So ultimately, this command, those other verbs, be fruitful and multiply, because those verbs are also in the imperative, are bound to everyone else as well. Since basically, since they couldn't fill the earth in and of itself. And also, we know that Jacob referenced this command when he said, who hath withheld thee from the fruit of the womb. He's referencing this specific command. And he's doing this because he's bound by law to have sex with his wives, Rachel and Leah. So, another reason is right here in Numbers chapter 33. Verse 54, you shall divide the land by lot for an inheritance among your families. And to the more you shall give more inheritance, to the fewer you shall give fewer inheritance. Ultimately, what this means is you have a group of people who you are to divide inheritance portions up according to families. And ultimately, what is a family according to the law? It's a reproducing unit. Since ultimately, every single person is bound by law to be fruitful and multiply, or i.e. have sex, every person comes together, gets married, and then they produce the command to be fruitful and multiply. The people that engage in that command more get a bigger portion of inheritance. In other words, they're getting blessed with a bigger portion of land. But those that don't do it that often, they're getting less inheritance. So ultimately, the person if you have a group of people where, or basically you have one person inside of the family of Dan, a woman, let's say, you have a man from the tribe of Reuben, and they come together, they get married and all of that stuff. Basically, she will join him on his inheritance inside of Reuben in and of itself, and basically she will become a Reubenite, since names are determined through the male, and so is tribal affiliation. So ultimately, she is becoming a Reubenite once she marries this man from Reuben. And when she produces seed in and of itself, she ceases to be a Danite. In lineage, she will be, but ultimately she ceases to be that, and she becomes a person from the tribe of Reuben. And they continue birthing children or becoming a reproducing unit for this portion of inheritance. And now, ultimately, when it comes to this command to be fruitful and multiply, there were commentaries about this in the Mishnah. What was it called? The house of Hillel basically stated that they have to continue birthing children until they have at least a boy and a girl. The house of Shammai basically said until they have 2 boys. Now, both are reasonably arguing each position, and they know exactly what they're doing. They know births are not controlled in that aspect. So ultimately, they're saying that the act of sex needs to continue, unprotected sex needs to continue until you have both of those. So that way the population will continue to grow and grow and grow, and then basically they will be, a part of this land or that land, and basically, yeah. Now, when it comes to the house of Hillel, I understand his reasoning. He's guarding the other people of the tribe, of other tribes, essentially. Basically, what he is saying is that he's guarding other families in and of itself. So ultimately, if one generation of family comes together and they have 5 children or whatever, they let's just say from Judah, and several boys and several girls, let's say, then basically they're going to, and they also have a girl in and of itself. Then basically that girl in and of itself can marry someone else inside of the tribe, so that way other people can have an inheritance or propagate this specific command to have marriage, to have an inheritance in and of itself be propagated. So in and of itself, it's a very big deal. Sex is a very, very big deal. So, yeah, I sure hope. Oh, one more thing. This ultimately means that basically, well, let's just say there is a population shortage. 60% women and 40% males. Well, that's where things go awry. And that's where ultimately the males from the tribe need to marry multiple women, since every single person is bound by this specific command to be fruitful and multiply. I sure hope this study has blessed you. Thank you.